Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Pauline. Today we're going to be doing my January wrap-up, which I feel like I'm a little bit behind on considering that it's February 7th at the time that I'm filming this, and by the time it comes up, it'll be like halfway into the month, probably. But I read 6 books last month, and it is definitely safe to say I failed my January TBR. I was like, oh, I'm gonna read all of these books. I read none of them, except for one series, one book, one series, which I feel like, progress, right? But I am still determined to read them. I'm gonna start pacing myself because I have been just taking some time like, oh, I'm not reading, like I'm fine. No, it's not fine. They're piling up and it's stressing me out. And I do want to read all of them. Like genuinely, I really want to start them. And I know that when I start them, I'm gonna like them. Just gotta get myself from here to there. Anyway, I'm a little bit sick right now, so I don't really feel like yelling, like projecting my voice. So I'm also trying out my external mic, which I have right here. So that's what that is. And I hope that it picks up well. Anyway, let's get started. I have 6 books to talk to you guys about, and I'm so excited. All right, so I started off January with the Sinners Anonymous series, and honestly, it was a great start to my month because I devoured these. This is mafia romance. It's forbidden love, it's enemies to lovers, lots of good spice scenes in them, and like I kind of miss going through the series. There's currently 3 books in the series. So Sinners Anonymous, which is book 1, it's one couple, and then books 2 and 3 are a duet. It's for Rafe and Penny, Sinners Condemned and Sinners Consumed. There are 2 more books coming out that's also going to be a duet, and that's going to be for Gabe, their other brother. And book 4 is called Sinners Atone, which I think releases September. And then the 5th book, which I don't know the title of off the top of my head, I don't even know if that's been announced, but I think that's gonna come out next year. But these are literally so good. I read them all in Kindle Unlimited, and I think it's the first mafia romance series I've read in a while, like lately at least, not ever. Lately, this is the first mafia romance I picked up. Really liked it. So let's start with Sinners Anonymous. This follows Angelo and Rory. It's a little bit like Forbidden Love. This is their only book compared to the duet, but basically she has to marry this old ass man. I hate him so much. Literally ew. She has to marry him because she's trying to save her father, right? Like her father is in this territory. Angelo is said uncle's nephew. He was a made man 9 years ago. He leaves and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna close that chapter in my life. But before he left 9 years ago, him and Rory kind of had like a run-in, like they kind of met each other for the first time. Very brief. They, I think, had like a small conversation together. Fast forward 9 years later, he comes back to town. Okay, he's just visiting. He comes to his uncle's home, finds out that his fiance is Rory, and he remembers her. And she realizes that he remembers her because obviously she also remembers him. And so that's how it starts, okay? So Angelo is just supposed to be visiting. He's just visiting his family, okay? Nothing serious, except he cannot stay away from Rory, okay? From his uncle's fiance. But they're so into each other, and so they kind of just keep towing this line together of flirting, but not flirting, and also doing more things, you know, doing spicy things without actually doing them together. You gotta read the spice scenes for that because honestly, they were pretty hot. I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars because I feel like there was a lot of info dump kind of in the beginning and also a little bit halfway through. I don't think that it really like bothered me 100% though. Like I think it was information that I needed to know about them, but also because there was a lot of it, I was like, oh my gosh, like where is the rest of what's happening? Flipping through my highlights of this book is making me want to freaking read the series all over again. Let me just read you some of these highlights, okay? Because I'm like, all right, so you like nature. Christ, Rory, there's nature everywhere. I'll buy you land. I'll buy you a whole fucking island if you want. Buy me an island. God damn it. Now, books 2 and 3. Sinners Condemned and Sinners Consumed. This follows Rafe and Penny. This is enemies to lovers. Enemies to lovers. Like they genuinely hate each other to the point where I was like, should you guys even be in the same room together? Like, why are you breathing the same air? From the 3 books, Sinners Condemned is my favorite. This is 4.5 stars. It is my favorite in the series, and it is my favorite book of the month. And then Sinners Consumed gets 4 stars. But Rafe thinks that Penny is bad luck for him. Genuinely bad luck. That when she came into town, everything in his life went to shit. And then they keep running into each other. Penny ends up working for Rafe on his yacht. And I literally love the forced proximity between them because they cannot stand each other. Like, they literally want nothing to do with each other. But then they also have this chemistry going on between the two of them. And he is so obsessed with her, okay? He's so obsessed that he hates he's obsessed, and he won't admit that he's obsessed. I just love them so much. I love that they cannot get enough of each other. I don't know if this is gonna be a spoiler, maybe like a mini spoiler. I'm just gonna warn you anyway. Spoiler warning, okay? I'm gonna say it. They don't kiss at all in the first book. At all. In the entire book, they don't kiss. But they do, like, you know, all of the other things. And, you know, the tension that builds up from there, loved it. Delicious. Like, absolutely devoured it. And, like, them not kissing, like, isn't really a problem. But, like, obviously, like, I thought they would kiss, you know? And book 3 is also good. It's just not as good as I found book 2 to be. And I would say that their story didn't really need a duet for what happened in them. It feels like a lot happened and also not a lot happened. I definitely think that it could have wrapped up in one book, even if it meant like book 2 was going to be a little longer. But the conflicts that were introduced in book 2, I feel like were very quickly resolved, and I thought that they were going to be a bigger deal. And the conflict in book 3 came out of nowhere for me. Like, it turned out to be completely different than what was introduced in book 2. It literally left me like scratching my head, like, what is going on? Like, this is the conflict. So that's my general opinion of the duet. Anyway, overall, the series, loved it. Very enjoyable, read so quickly. It was so fun. I'm so excited for book 4 to come out whenever it comes out in September. And I'm really sad that I've already finished the series so early into this year. And now I have to wait like 7 more months. Okay, next up is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This is book 2 in the Dreamland Billionaire series. Book 1 is The Fine Print, and then book 3 is Final Offer, which just recently released. You can also read the series as standalones. I first read The Fine Print a little bit ago, like really had me going in the beginning, but then halfway through it kind of just lost me. That one was Grumpy Sunshine, and I really don't remember a lot of details about the book, but I do remember that my interest in that book was kind of high, low, like really up and down. And I'm afraid I felt the same way about this one. I will say that I like this a lot more than I liked book 1. I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars just because I feel like I was in and out with my interest in this one, and I really wanted it to work out so badly for me. Like, I really thought that I was gonna read this and it was gonna end up being like one of my favorite romance books, but it just didn't get me there all the way. This is Grumpy Sunshine. It's Marriage of Convenience. It's Declan and Iris, right? So Declan is this businessman, billionaire, obviously, and he's on track to becoming a CEO for their company. His grandfather put in an inheritance clause that said he can't be a CEO until he gets married and until he gets an heir. And Iris is his assistant, and so she is like perfect at her job, so much to the point where she's like, okay, no one's gonna marry you and no one's gonna have your kid. I'll do it. And I love Marriage of Convenience books. Like, I really do love them. I love when they realize that they're into the other person, but they're also still trying to deny it and they don't want to come to terms with it yet. But then everything that they're doing is clearly stating that they're so into them. And also just in general, because they go, ah, that's my wife. And I literally love that so much. Like, Declan is grumpy, right? Like, that's his whole persona, except I feel like he was too grumpy at times that it would literally give me whiplash with how hot and cold he was being with Iris. There would be parts where he'd be really mean, and then he would go, at the beginning, okay, I remember this in the beginning, he would go, fake marriage or not, I'm the only man that Iris is destined to end up with. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And when I got to that part, I literally was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, where is this coming from? Because I feel like prior to that, I got no indication that he liked her that way, that he viewed her that way, or that any sort of feelings coming out for him to feel that way. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. Maybe I did. I feel like I was missing the crumbs. I feel like the whole background thing, like, oh, like I secretly like her, but I have to keep up this persona that I don't and that I'm an asshole. I think I was missing that. I think that was like my main issue, is that we would go from point A to point C and the B got lost. I don't know, but I'm just sad that I didn't love it as much as other people loved it. I really thought I was going to. Needless to say, I am still very excited to read Final Offer, which is book 3. It's the last book in the trilogy series. I don't love it, but I still liked it. Next up is Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. This is her debut YA novel. This is my first book from her, but if her new adult/adult books, the Get a Life Chloe Brown series, if those are anything like this one, I'm so excited to read this because I thoroughly enjoyed this. Literally start to finish, I loved it. I love Talia's writing. I love how engaged she kept me with the story. I love the characters, the delivery of the dialogues, the internal monologues, everything about it just flowed so well together. I finished the book in hours. It's enemies to lovers, and it's about Celine and Brad, and their moms are best friends, so they also grew up as best friends until they had a big fight. They fell out and they haven't spoken since. Like every time they're around each other now, like they hate each other, they're always insulting the other. And it's also a little bit like academic rivals to lovers. They're always trying to one-up each other in school. And then they end up on the same outdoors expedition together, and the forced proximity kind of makes them confront like why they fell out, and also that they miss each other, and so they form this temporary truce. And with this truce, they realize like how much they miss each other, how much they miss talking to each other, and also that they had feelings for each other. Let me just tell you, this is so cute. Seriously, like I was nonstop giggling and blushing. The way that they just speak to each other, like they hate each other and they're annoyed of each other, but they're always just trying to talk to each other. I'm definitely a huge fan of Talia's writing, even just from this alone. This is dual POV, it's first person, and if you're looking for a book that just kind of makes you feel like you're kicking your feet in the air while you're reading, definitely check this one out. My last book of the month is Jasper Vale by Devney. This is a small town romance. It's marriage of convenience, grumpy sunshine, a little bit of fake dating thrown in. This is an interconnected standalone, so you could read it on its own if you haven't read any of the other books in the series. I've only read Juniper Hill and this one, and so I kind of just dove into the series at random. Even though I read Juniper Hill like early last year, I still kind of remember some details, but I definitely wasn't lost in picking this up. I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna give this 4 stars. Jasper and Eloise get married in Vegas, and what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas, because when they go back to their small town in Quincy, Montana, they're like, oh my god, we got married, like nobody can find out. So they're like, okay, we're gonna get it annulled, and that's it. Like, just don't tell anybody, keep it a secret. Except they are so sexually attracted to each other, okay? At this point, like, that's their only connection, is they have a lot of sex, and they have good sex, apparently. The spice in here is really good. And then Jasper gets a letter in the mail, and basically it's his ex-girlfriend / childhood friend inviting him to her wedding. They have a really complicated relationship, and actually, I was so annoyed every time that he spoke to her, because I'm like, literally, why are you talking to her? It's kind of like a taunt, like a challenge, you know, like, oh, you're not gonna show up. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna show up, and I'm gonna show up with Eloise, with my wife. Also, one of my favorite scenes in here that literally gave me so many butterflies is they go and move in together, and they're staying at his house. Her brothers show up, they're like yelling at her, you know, they're like, you got married, you didn't tell anybody, you didn't tell us. And then Jasper just sort of comes up to Eloise and like pulls her against him, and he's like, that's enough, you're yelling at my wife. Literally butterflies, blushing, me like punching the air. I love those moments so much. Like, that's one of my favorite parts about marriage of convenience books, is just when they go, that's my wife. Like, yes, you fucking tell him that's your wife. Overall, I really loved it. There was just some scenes that I was like, anyways, 4 stars. Definitely go read this. I think you guys are gonna love the spice. Seriously, it's so good. And also, who doesn't love a marriage of convenience book? Literally, like, I need somebody to be like, that's my wife. That wraps up this video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you're planning on reading any of them. And also, please let me know if there are any other videos that you want to see from me in the future, and I would be happy to plan them. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!